Can I stay? She whispered at 3 a.m. The Army medic's answer changed everything. My name is Connor Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and I've seen more people die than I care to count. I got back from Afghanistan 14 months ago. Honorable discharge. 3 tours as an Army medic. I came home with a chest full of medals, a brain full of noise, and hands that still shake when I hear fireworks. The VA gave me a pamphlet about PTSD and a referral to a therapist I saw twice before, deciding I'd rather just work until I was too tired to dream. That's how I ended up as an EMT in Chicago, running 911 calls 16 hours a day, sleeping in my studio apartment the other 8. It wasn't much of a life, but it was better than the alternative. Sitting still long enough for the memories to catch up. The night I met Sadie Chen, I was on hour 14 of a double shift. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, the kind of cold that cuts through your jacket and settles in your bones. My partner, Deshaun, was driving, and I was in the back with a 53-year-old having a heart attack, trying to keep him stable while we raced through empty streets toward Chicago Metro Hospital. Hang on, sir, I said, my hands moving on autopilot, checking vitals, adjusting the IV, monitoring the cardiac rhythm. We're almost there. You're doing great. He wasn't doing great. His rhythm was deteriorating, his pressure dropping. I'd seen this before too many times, in field hospitals where the only light came from headlamps and the only sound was mortar fire in the distance. Connor, ETA 2 minutes, Deshaun called from the front. Copy that. Sir, stay with me. Talk to me. What's your wife's name? Janet, he whispered, his face gray, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. Married, 40 years. 40 years. That's incredible. You're going to tell her about this crazy night, okay? She's going to yell at you for eating too much bacon, and you're going to promise to take better care of yourself. He tried to smile, then his eyes rolled back. Shit, V-fib. I grabbed the defibrillator. Deshaun, step on it. By the time we pulled into the ambulance bay at Metro, I'd shocked him twice and was doing chest compressions. The ER team was already waiting. They always were at Metro, one of the best trauma centers in the city. Organized chaos, everyone knowing their role, moving like a well-oiled machine. 53-year-old male, acute MI, went into V-fib en route. I rattled off as we wheeled him in, continuing compressions. 2 shocks delivered, EPI given, at 0243, ongoing CPR. We've got him. A woman's voice, calm and authoritative. Transfer on my count, 1, 2, 3. We moved him to the ER bed and I stepped back, breathing hard. My shirt soaked with sweat despite the cold. The team swarmed him. Doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, all moving with the kind of precision that only comes from doing this hundreds of times. I watched for a moment, the way I always did, needing to know if he'd make it. Needing to know my work meant something. Nice work. The woman who'd taken over appeared beside me. She was small, maybe 5'3", with black hair pulled back in a ponytail, and dark eyes that looked just as tired as I felt. Her scrubs were wrinkled, and she had that particular exhaustion that comes from too many hours in fluorescent lighting. Your compressions kept him viable. We'll get him to the cath lab, but he's got a shot because of you. Just doing my job. So am I, but I can still say thank you. She extended a hand. Sadie Chen, ER nurse. You're new, right? Haven't seen you before. Connor Hayes. Started 6 weeks ago. I shook her hand, small but strong, her grip firm. You work nights? Someone has to. You. Same. She studied me for a moment, and I had the uncomfortable feeling she was seeing more than I wanted her to. Army medic? I stiffened. How'd you know? The way you work. It's different. Clinical, but personal. Like every patient is someone you know. She paused. My brother was a medic. Marines, 2 tours in Iraq. He back? Yeah, drives a truck now. Says he likes the quiet. Something flickered in her expression. You good, Hayes? I'm fine. Right. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Well, if you're bringing me patients who are still viable at 3 a.m., you're welcome back anytime. I nodded, turned to leave, then stopped. Your brother, is he really okay? Sadie's expression softened. Some days. Working on it. You? Working on it. Good enough. She touched my arm briefly, just a second, barely anything, then walked back to her patient. I didn't think much about the interaction. Just another nurse, another shift, another night in the endless string of nights. But as Deshawn and I drove back to base to restock, I realized I could still feel where her hand had touched my arm, like maybe I wasn't as numb as I thought I was. I saw Sadie 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Brief interactions, me wheeling in patients, her taking report, both of us too busy to do more than exchange a few words. But I started noticing things, the way she never raised her voice, even when the ER was chaos. The way she talked to patients, really talked to them, made them feel like people instead of problems. The way her eyes looked haunted sometimes, when she thought no one was watching. You got a thing for the Chinese nurse? Deshawn asked one night as we sat in the ambulance between calls, eating gas station sandwiches. What? No, I don't have a thing. Man, you look for her every time we're at Metro. It's obvious. She's a good nurse, professional interest. Deshawn snorted. Professional interest? Right. When's the last time you went on a date? I don't date. Yeah, I noticed. You work, you sleep, you work some more. That's not a life, Connor. It's enough. Is it, though? He looked at me seriously. Look, I don't know what you saw over there, and I'm not asking, but you're back now. You're allowed to be alive, man, not just surviving. I didn't answer. Didn't know how to explain that surviving felt like all I could manage. That some nights I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking I was still in Kandahar, still hearing mortars, still trying to stop bleeding that wouldn't stop. That dating, relationships, normal life, it all felt like something that happened to other people. My phone buzzed, another call. Domestic disturbance, possible assault. Let's go, I said, crumpling my sandwich wrapper. Deshawn sighed but started the engine. Jean, the call was bad. Worse than bad. A woman in her 40s, beaten so severely by her husband that her face was almost unrecognizable. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, the kind of injuries that made my hands shake with rage as I worked on her. Ma'am, you're safe now, I said as we loaded her into the ambulance. He can't hurt you anymore. Police have him in custody. She didn't respond, just stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. We brought her to Metro. It was 4:15 a.m. The hospital in that weird, quiet period between late-night emergencies and early morning chaos. Sadie was at the nurse's station when we wheeled in, and I saw her expression change when she saw our patient. Trauma Bay 2, she said immediately, all business. What do we have? I gave her the rundown, the injuries, the vitals, the interventions we'd done. Sadie's face stayed professional, but I saw her jaw tighten. The trauma team took over. The attending physician, a gruff man in his 50s, named Dr. Morrison, examined the patient and started barking orders. Sadie moved efficiently, starting lines, drawing blood, but I noticed her hands trembled slightly. Hayes, you're clear, Dr. Morrison said. Nice work. We'll take it from here. I should have left. Should have gone back to the rig, back to the streets, back to the job. But something made me linger by the nurse's station, filling out paperwork I could have done anywhere. 20 minutes later, Sadie emerged from the trauma bay. She walked past me without seeming to see me, heading towards the staff bathroom. I watched her go, saw the rigid set of her shoulders, the careful control in her movements. I don't know what made me follow her. Maybe the same instinct that told me when a patient was about to crash, when something was wrong, even if all the numbers looked okay. I knocked on the bathroom door. Sadie, you okay? Silence. Then, go away, Hayes. Can't do that. I'm fine. No, you're not. More silence. Then the lock clicked, and the door opened a crack. Sadie stood there, her face pale, her eyes red but dry. What do you want? To make sure you're okay. Why? Because I recognize that look. The one you had when you walked out of that trauma bay. She stared at me for a long moment, then stepped back, letting me in. The bathroom was small, institutional, smelling of industrial cleaner. She leaned against the sink, arms wrapped around herself. I'm fine, she said again, but her voice cracked on the word. Sadie, I said I'm fine. The words came out sharp, angry. Then her face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, it's okay. I kept my distance, giving her space. You want to talk about it? No. Yes. I don't know. She pressed her hands to her face. That woman, the assault victim, she's the fourth one this week. Fourth. And I can't. She stopped, breathing hard. I can't stop seeing their faces. Can't stop thinking about. She cut herself off, but I understood. Something happened to you. It wasn't a question. She looked at me, and I saw the answer in her eyes. 6 months ago, she said quietly. A patient's son. He was high, probably meth, definitely out of his mind. He thought we killed his mother. We didn't. She had a massive stroke, but he didn't believe us. He came back to the ER with a knife. My stomach dropped. Sadie! I was at the nurse's station. He grabbed me, held the knife to my throat, said he was going to make me pay. Her voice was flat, reciting facts. Security got him before he could. But he cut me, not deep, just enough to. She touched her neck, and I saw the faint line of a scar just below her jaw. Jesus. I took 2 weeks off, did some therapy, came back because this is what I do, right? This is my job. I'm supposed to be able to handle it. She laughed bitterly. But apparently I can't, because every time I see a trauma patient, especially assault victims, I freeze. Just for a second. But I freeze. And in this job, a second can mean, you didn't freeze tonight, you were perfect. I was shaking. Did you see my hands? I saw a nurse doing her job under difficult circumstances. That's it. Sadie looked at me, really looked at me. Why are you being nice to me? You don't even know me. Because I know what it's like. To keep working when you're not okay because stopping feels worse. Understanding flickered in her expression. The army! Yeah. What happened? I should have deflected. Changed the subject. Made some excuse and left. But standing in that bathroom at 4:30 in the morning with this woman who looked as broken as I felt, I couldn't. I lost a kid, I said quietly. 19 years old, Marine. IED took his legs. I kept him alive long enough to get him to the field hospital, but I stopped, swallowed hard. He died on the operating table. And the last thing he said to me was, tell my mom I'm sorry. Sadie's eyes filled with tears. Connor. His name was Danny Pritchard, from Ohio. He'd been in country 3 months. 3 months. I laughed, the sound hollow. I've saved dozens of people, hundreds maybe. But I still see his face every time I close my eyes. That's not your fault. I know that. Up here. I tapped my head. But knowing and feeling are different things. Yeah, she wiped her eyes. They really are. We stood there in silence for a moment. two people held together by trauma and exhaustion, and the thin hope that maybe talking about it helped. "You want to get coffee?" Sadie asked suddenly. "My shift ends in an hour. There's a diner 2 blocks away that's open all night. They make terrible coffee, but it's better than the break room." I should have said no. Should have maintained professional distance, gone home, kept to my routine of work and sleep and nothing else. Instead, I said, "Yeah, coffee sounds good." The diner was exactly as Sadie described. Fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like it had been sitting on the burner since yesterday. We were the only customers except for a guy at the counter who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Sadie sat across from me, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup like she was trying to absorb its warmth. She'd changed out of her scrubs into jeans and a Northwestern sweatshirt, her hair down around her shoulders. Without the hospital lighting, I could see the shadows under her eyes, the fine lines of stress around her mouth. "So," she said, "how do we do this? Trade trauma stories like baseball cards? I was thinking we could start with something normal, like where you're from." "Normal, right?" She took a sip of coffee, made a face. "Okay. Born in San Francisco. Moved to Chicago for nursing school at Northwestern. Stayed because I liked the city and my parents were driving me crazy." "What kind of crazy?" "The why aren't you married yet kind. The when are you giving us grandchildren kind. Classic Chinese family pressure." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "They mean well. They just don't understand why I chose ER nursing instead of something safer, like pediatrics or dermatology." "Do they know about the attack?" "No, and they're not going to. They just use it as ammunition to convince me to quit." She paused. "What about you? Family?" "Parents in Wisconsin. Dad's a mechanic, mom's a teacher. They wanted me to go to college, get a degree, have a real career. Joining the army wasn't exactly their dream, but you did it anyway. I was 18 and stupid and thought I could save the world." I rotated my coffee cup. Turns out the world doesn't want to be saved. Cynical. Realistic. Sadie studied me. "You don't believe that. If you did, you wouldn't be an EMT. You wouldn't still be trying to save people. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to quit. Or maybe you still have hope, even if you won't admit it." I didn't have an answer for that. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking terrible coffee, watching the sky outside gradually lighten from black to dark blue. "Can I ask you something?" Sadie said finally. "Yeah." "Why'd you follow me tonight? To the bathroom? You could have just left. I told you I recognized the look." "It's more than that." She was right. I took a breath. "Because I've been where you are, 6 months back, barely holding it together, pretending everything's fine. And no one checked on me. Everyone just accepted that I was handling it because that's what I said." I met her eyes. "I didn't want you to feel that alone." Sadie's expression softened. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me, really seeing me. Most people just see the competent nurse. They don't see—" She trailed off. "The person underneath?" "Yeah." My phone buzzed. Text from Deshawn. "Where are you, man? Shift's over. You good?" I typed back, "Yeah, got coffee with someone. See you tomorrow." "You have to go?" Sadie asked. "No, unless you want me to." "I don't." She reached across the table, placed her hand over mine. Her palm was warm, her touch tentative. "Is this weird? Having coffee with someone you barely know at 6 a.m. after a terrible shift?" "Probably, but I think we're past normal." She laughed and the sound was lighter than before. "Fair point." She squeezed my hand, then pulled back. "Can we do this again? The coffee thing. Not necessarily after trauma shifts, but just talking." "I'd like that." "Good." She stood gathering her bag. "Walk me to my car." The parking garage was cold and echoing in the early morning light. Sadie's car was a beat-up Honda Civic with a bumper sticker that said, "Nurses, we can't fix stupid, but we can sedate it." "Classy," I said, pointing at it. "Gift from my brother. He thinks he's hilarious." She unlocked the door, then turned back to me. "Connor? Yeah? I'm glad you followed me tonight." "Me too." She stood on her toes and kissed my cheek, quick and soft, and leaving me frozen in place. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking garage, trying to remember how to breathe. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Deshawn. "You're smiling." "Who is she?" I didn't answer, just walked to my own car feeling something I hadn't felt in 14 months. Not quite happiness, but maybe the beginning of it. We started meeting for coffee regularly after that. Sometimes at the diner, sometimes at a cafe near the hospital. Once at Sadie's apartment when she texted me at 3 a.m., saying she couldn't sleep, and did I want to watch bad movies. I learned things about her. That she was 31 but felt older. That she'd wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford medical school. That she volunteered at a women's shelter on her days off, teaching self-defense classes. That she was terrified of spiders but loved horror movies. That her laugh, when it was genuine, sounded like music. She learned things about me too, about Danny Pritchard and the dozen other people I couldn't save. About the nightmares that woke me up most nights. About my parents who called once a week and asked when I was coming home, not understanding that I couldn't go back to who I was before. "Do you ever think about getting out?" Sadie asked one morning, as we sat in her living room, the sun rising through her windows. "Quitting the medical field entirely?" "Every day. You?" "Every single day." She pulled her knees to her chest. "But then, I think about the people who need help. The ones who come into the ER scared and hurting and alone. And I think maybe I can make it a little less awful for them. That's why you're good at what you do, or why I'm terrible at self-preservation." She looked at me. "Do you think we're broken? Too damaged to have normal lives?" "I think we're survivors. There's a difference." "Is there? Because sometimes I feel like I'm just barely holding on. Like one more bad shift, one more trauma patient, one more reminder, and I'll just—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "Fall apart completely." I moved closer, wrapped my arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me and I felt her trembling. "You're not going to fall apart." "How do you know?" "Because you're still here, still fighting. That's not broken, that's strong." She tilted her head up to look at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. "I don't feel strong. Neither do I, but we're doing it anyway." She kissed me then. Not on the cheek this time, but on the mouth, soft and tentative, and tasting like coffee and hope. I kissed her back, cupping her face in my hands, feeling something tight in my chest finally start to loosen. When we pulled apart, both breathing hard, Sadie rested her forehead against mine. "Is this okay? Us? I don't know what this is, but yeah, it's okay." "Good." She kissed me again, longer this time. "Stay, just to sleep. I don't want to be alone." "Okay." We moved to her bedroom, lay down on top of the covers fully clothed. Sadie curled against my side, her head on my chest, her breathing gradually evening out. I lay awake longer, staring at the ceiling, processing the fact that this small, fierce woman made me feel something other than numb. My phone buzzed softly. Text from Deshawn. "You stayed out all night." This is a thing now, isn't it? I typed back one-handed, not wanting to disturb Sadie. "Maybe. Good. You deserve something good, man." I looked down at Sadie, sleeping peacefully for the first time in probably months, and thought maybe Deshawn was right. Maybe I did deserve something good. Maybe we both did. Yes. Over the next 6 weeks, Sadie and I fell into something that felt like a relationship, but neither of us was brave enough to name. We worked opposite shifts, me on the ambulance, her in the ER, But we always found time. Coffee dates at 6 a.m., text messages throughout the day. Her apartment or mine, whichever was closer, falling asleep in each other's arms because sleeping alone had become unbearable. We didn't talk about the future, didn't make plans beyond the next day. It was like we both understood that we were too fragile for promises, that all we could handle was right now. "I like you," Sadie said one night as we lay in my bed, the city lights filtering through my thin curtains. "A lot. Maybe too much." "How can you like someone too much? Because what if it doesn't last? What if we can't handle—" She stopped. "What if I'm not strong enough for this? For what, us? For anything. For you, for the job, for normal life. What if I'm just too broken?" I turned to face her, made her look at me. "You're not broken, neither am I. We're just people who've been through hard things, trying to figure out how to keep going. Together? If you want." "I want." She kissed me, fierce and desperate. "But I'm scared." "Me too." "Good. At least we're scared together." The crisis came on a Tuesday night in May. I was 3 hours into my shift when the call came in. Multiple victims, shooting at a convenience store, mass casualty incident. Deshawn and I were second on scene. The first ambulance was already loading a victim, a teenage boy with a gunshot wound to the abdomen. 2 more victims lay on the ground. A woman, probably mid-30s, shot in the chest, and a man, early 20s, head wound. "You take the woman, I'll take the guy," I told Deshawn, already moving. The man, kid really, was barely breathing, blood pooling beneath his head. Gunshot wound to the right temple, exit wound on the left side. Unsurvivable, my training told me. But I worked anyway, because that's what you do. "Sir, can you hear me? What's your name?" His eyes fluttered open, blue eyes, scared eyes. Am I dying?" My stomach clenched. "We're going to take care of you. What's your name?" "Matthew Cho is my mom, the woman. Other paramedics are helping her. You focus on staying with me, okay?" But even as I said it, I knew. The blood loss, the location of the wound, the way his pupils weren't reactive. I'd seen this before in Kandahar, in field hospitals, in the back of ambulances. He was dying, and there was nothing I could do. "Tell her—" His breathing rattled. "Tell her I love—" His eyes went fixed and dilated, no pulse. I started CPR anyway, my hands moving automatically even though I knew it was futile. "Connor, we gotta go," Deshawn called. "He's coding." "The woman's critical. We load them both, work them en route." We got them both in the ambulance. I continued CPR on Matthew while Deshawn drove, lights and sirens screaming. My arms burned, my chest ached. And all I could think was, not again. Please, not again. We pulled into Metro's ambulance bay 7 minutes later. The trauma team was waiting. Sadie was there, taking report on the woman from Deshawn, while I continued compressions on Matthew. 21-year-old male, GSW to the head, no pulse on scene, ongoing CPR for 12 minutes. "Connor, stop." Dr. Morrison's voice cut through my focus. "He's gone. You can stop." "No, if we just—" "Hayes." Morrison gripped my shoulder. "He's gone. You did everything right, but he's gone." I stopped, my hands still on Matthew's chest, my mind refusing to accept what my training knew was true. He was someone's son, someone's brother. Sadie had mentioned a brother once. What was his name? "Connor." Sadie's voice soft and close. "Come with me." She led me away from the trauma bay, down a hallway, into an empty consultation room. I stood there shaking, my uniform soaked with blood, my hands trembling. I couldn't save him. "I know." He asked about his mother. "Is she—" "She's in surgery. Dr. Morrison thinks she'll make it." "But her son—" "Is gone." Sadie moved closer, took my bloody hands in hers. "And that's not your fault." "I know that. My voice broke. But he was 21 years old, Sadie. He looked just like... I couldn't say it. Couldn't say Danny's name. I know. She pulled me into a hug, and I finally broke, sobbing into her shoulder like a child. All the grief and exhaustion and trauma of the past 2 years crashing over me at once. She held me through it, one hand stroking my hair, whispering things I couldn't hear over my own anguished breathing. When I finally pulled back, embarrassed and wrecked, she cupped my face in her hands. You need to go home. Take a personal day. Process this. I can't. I have 8 more hours. Connor, if I stop, I'll fall apart. I need to keep moving. She understood. I saw it in her eyes. The same drive to keep working because stopping meant feeling everything. Okay, but promise me you'll come over after your shift. Don't be alone with this. I promise. Oh, I made it through the rest of my shift on autopilot. 3 more calls, none of them critical. Deshawn didn't push me to talk, just stayed close and handled the difficult parts. At 7 a.m., I drove straight to Sadie's apartment. She answered the door still in her scrubs, eyes red from crying. The mother died in surgery, she said without preamble. Complications from the chest wound. She never regained consciousness. The words hit me like a physical blow. Both of them? Both of them. Sadie pulled me inside, locked the door behind us. There was nothing anyone could have done differently, but they're both gone. I sank onto her couch, my head in my hands. I can't do this anymore. Do what? This, the job, watching people die. Telling myself it's okay because I saved someone else yesterday. It's not okay. None of this is okay. Sadie sat beside me, took my hand. You're right. It's not okay. The world is violent and unfair, and people die who shouldn't. But quitting won't change that. At least I wouldn't have to see it. No? You just wonder if someone else could have saved them. If you'd been there, would it have been different? She squeezed my hand. I know because I've thought about quitting 1,000 times. But I can't, because this is who I am. What if who we are is killing us? Then we figure out how to survive it together. I looked at her, this small, fierce woman who'd been through her own hell and somehow kept standing. How are you so strong? I'm not. I'm terrified every shift that I'll freeze, that I'll fail someone because I can't handle my own trauma. She moved closer. But then I remember I'm not doing this alone anymore. That you get it in a way no one else does. And that makes it a little more bearable. Sadie. She kissed me, hard and desperate, like she was trying to prove we were both still alive. I kissed her back, pulling her onto my lap, needing her warmth, her certainty, her presence. When we finally broke apart, I rested my forehead against hers. I love you. The words came out before I could stop them. Sadie went very still. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I shouldn't have. Say it again. What? Say it again. I need to hear it again. I love you, I whispered. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. So much it scares me. Me too. We're a mess. You know that, right? 2 traumatized medical professionals who can barely keep themselves together. I know. But maybe. She smiled through her tears. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep showing up. For each other? For each other. We stayed like that for a long time. Holding each other in the morning light. 2 broken people choosing to be broken together. And somehow that felt like healing. 3 months later, I was standing in Sadie's kitchen, making breakfast when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Hayes? This is Janet Pritchard, Danny Pritchard's mother. My blood went cold. Mrs. Pritchard, I know this is unexpected. I got your number from the Army. I hope that's okay. Of course. What can I do for you? I wanted to thank you. Her voice was thick with emotion. for keeping my boy alive long enough to say goodbye, for holding his hand, for making sure he wasn't alone. My throat tightened. Mrs. Pritchard, the Army sent me the reports. I know he died on the operating table, not with you. But those extra minutes, she stopped, collected herself. Those extra minutes mattered. You gave him a chance. That's all any mother can ask for. Tears streamed down my face. I'm so sorry I couldn't save him. You did save him. Maybe not his body, but his spirit. He wasn't alone. He wasn't scared. You gave him that gift. She paused. Are you okay, Mr. Hayes? The Army said you came home. Are you taking care of yourself? I looked over at Sadie, who'd emerged from the bedroom, concern on her face. I'm trying. Some days are harder than others. That's all we can do. Try. Mrs. Pritchard's voice softened. Danny would want you to be happy, to live a full life. Don't let what happened over there steal your future. I'll try. Good. That's all I can ask. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Thank you for bringing my boy home. She hung up. I stood there holding my phone, shaking. Sadie wrapped her arms around me from behind. Who was that? Danny's mother. Oh, Connor. She thanked me for keeping him alive, for holding his hand. I turned in her arms. How do I deserve that? You did your job. You cared. You showed up when it mattered. She kissed my cheek. You're a good man, Connor Hayes, even if you don't believe it yet. I'm working on it. I know we both are. She took my hand. Come on. Breakfast is burning. We sat at her small kitchen table, eating slightly burnt eggs and toast, talking about normal things. Her shift schedule, my new training class, whether we should get a cat. Normal things, future things. Things that suggested we believed we had a future together. And for the first time since I came home from Afghanistan, I thought maybe Mrs. Pritchard was right. Maybe I deserved to be happy. Maybe we both did.